The following program is a sports handicapping show. That's right, we will be discussing sports betting and all kinds of other gambling stuff, including game predictions. As you know, not every bet will win, but we do our best. Feel free to use this information at your own risk, and remember, wager wisely, folks.
Broadcasting from the Vegas Video Network studios, live from the Las Vegas Strip, Covers.com presents Vegas SportsDay. And now from the sports betting capital of the world, here are your hosts, Teddy and the Professor.
And konnichiwa to you on this Wednesday in Sin City. And you, of course, are watching Vegas SportsDay, the pulse of the sports betting world. It's not a sick bay today. Dave and I are both healthy and looking to get through the show without sniffling or coughing as we gear up for the big Super Bowl weekend. Try to get healthy between here and there, of course. I'm Teddy Covers, joined as always by my esteemed colleague, the Professor, Dave Malinsky.
Coming in today for the Super Bowl, there's been some thunder to the under. We're going to have a little bit of thunder on our own tonight against a team that has forced to use a maverick approach to trying to win. And in money time, we got beat to a Herman Melville reference. But we're going to give credit where credit's due. Some guy in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, he got off a good one this morning.
Dave, first take for a Wednesday. What'd you see last night that you want to share with our viewing audience?
Something that caused a lot of pain to you, to me, and probably to a lot of the audience. The end of the Denver-Memphis game, a game you certainly don't expect to lose with Denver up 13 in the second half. It's right where you want it, given the preset for those teams. Memphis on a losing streak, struggling with confidence. But how did they win the game? A lot of scrapping in the fourth quarter, but something really memorable in the overtime. And the sort of play that can sometimes turn a season around for a team. If you weren't watching, Denver goes up by 4 in the overtime, a little under 2 minutes to play. They get a turnover, they get out on the fast break, and there goes Ty Lawson to the basket. And of course, we all know what happens when Ty Lawson goes to the basket. With his quickness, he gets there first, and he scores. But Rudy Gay chases him down, gets there just in time to block his shot off the backboard in a way that not only stops that shot, but kicks the ball out to where Memphis can run a break the other way. Instead of a 6-point game and likely ball game, it's all over, it becomes a 2-point game. Denver doesn't score again. Memphis ends up winning it. That hustle by Rudy Gay, that determination at a time when the team was going very badly. When you've lost 3 games in a row, and you see a game getting away, it's easy instead of chasing that play down to say, here we go again. Now, Gay made that play. A Memphis team we don't like a lot might be one to watch the other way a little bit the next couple of days. That could be a turning point for them. Feeling better today?
Yeah. I'm doing my best not to hack up a lung on the show today, for sure. Especially while you're talking.
So now a real first take coming in here with real energy again.
Yeah, I had energy yesterday. Just because I'm hacking up a lung doesn't mean I can't have a first take. But we talk a lot in the handicap community about who's hot and who's not. Are you hot? What's it take to be hot? What's it mean when you're hot? Well, yeah, it's nice to go on an 18-2 run over a 20-play span, but it takes something to do that. It takes a little bit of luck, maybe a lot of luck. We talked about Denver last night. That game gets chalked up in the books as an L, not a W. And in general, you look at the college basketball board last night. 13 line games, 8 of the 13 games decided by 1 bucket against the spread, one way or the other. Someone hits a 3-pointer on the one side, that team would cash. Someone hits a 3-pointer on the other side, the other team would cash. Takes a little bit of luck to be on the right side of those, and that's what makes a good streak into a great streak, or a bad streak into a decent streak. Winning some of these close results. And again, you want to have as many right sides as you can. The clients and I cashed with New Mexico last night. No muss, no fuss, no sweat. Right side. Every play can't be a right side. In order to be really hot, handicapping-wise, you have to be on the right side of some of these lucky decisions. All right, let's talk about the Super Bowl, because it's Super Bowl week, and this is probably the only Super Bowl reference we're going to get to today. Of course, tomorrow on the show, we're going to go through a full prop report, everything. Kelly Clarkson national anthem right through the who's going to score last. Big prop show tomorrow right here on Vegas SportsDay. But for today, we need to talk about the total, because we've seen a fairly significant money move and line move on the total over the course of the last 24 hours. The under money has come in, and it's come in pretty hard. The prevailing number down from 55 yesterday. We're looking at 54s, and even in some key shops, 53s starting to show up on the under. And, it's kind of an exercise in the mind when we calculate totals and potential total results. If you don't have a chart, like many of the professionals do, work it through this way in your mind. Play through the natural score combination. When we say natural score, it's a Baccarat term, a term that originally came from Baccarat. And Baccarat, of course, you're looking for a natural 9. Can't lose with a natural 9. Natural 8s aren't too bad either. But if you're not a Baccarat player, Dave will talk about in just a minute what a natural means. But there are combinations where the score could fall exactly on that number. So you see what has been taken out of play for underbettors to cash the Super Bowl. For example, a final score of 28-27. Very reasonable. As Dave and I were both talking in our predictions about the Super Bowl yesterday, we expect a close game, a field goal type game. 28-27, a very reasonable, possible final score. Well, guess what? 2 days ago, that cashes your under ticket. Today, it doesn't. A 31-24 final score, similar result. 34-21, 35-20. If we start talking about some blowout possibilities, 38-17, guess what? That goes over now. 41-14, 45-10, 48-7. Not many of us expecting a 52-3 or a 55-0 score, but should that score come, guess what? Those tickets now cash for overbettors. They didn't 24 hours ago.
So a good little exercise is to play those scores in your head if you don't have that chart or the equivalency chart sitting there with you. Most of us will have a chart saying 37 falls X% of the time, 38 X%. But the biggest thing to focus on is what we call naturals. Those are scores that are natural progressions of touchdowns and field goals. What is a 55? That's 7 touchdowns and 2 field goals in any combination. And usually when people talk about naturals, it's touchdowns and 2 field goals. Since you get a lot of touchdowns, that third field goal is a little bit tougher. So notice you progress down. The 55 is worth something because all those scores that add up. Now, one of the better books has gone to 53. How important is the 53? Not much at all. Play through it in your head. What is your natural sequence to get to a 53? How about 5 touchdowns and 6 field goals? That's not going to happen. That's about the only natural combination that can get you to the 53. So if you don't have a chart there, think about that notion of natural in your head. Think touchdowns and field goals and how they add up. That'll help you to determine whether a particular number is worth all that much. So if you're looking to play over, don't get all excited that there's a 53 out there. The 53 itself almost is the same as a 53.5. In fact, a 53.5 at low juice is actually a better overplay than a 53 minus 110.
Let's get back to an overstuffed mailbox, which is going to have us even talking about politics. Yeah, Vegas Sports Day talking about politics. You betcha. We'll get there. Lots of questions to answer, but this one comes from Mike Maggs, and I think it certainly merits a mention on today's show. Mike says, quote, I don't handicap, but I'm really into fantasy sports for money, which is rapidly growing throughout the sports world. I know it might not be your particular expertise, but do you think you could add a fantasy sports segment? Players that might have good matchups, good value plays because of other injuries, etc. You would surely and deservingly add viewers to your show. We want fantasy talk.
Of course, we've got a lot of other letters wanting fantasy talk, but it's of a different kind.
Yeah, baby.
Well, that'll get addressed at some other point. The Vegas Video Network's got all sorts of plans, going forward. We bring this up today because it's going to be a big part of tomorrow's show. We will get down to individual player props and all sorts of esoterics on Super Bowl prop day. We'd like to do more of it. Here's our problem. We see things every day that we think are bettable, but they're not commonly bettable. So we know tonight we get to Money Time. We're going to talk about 4 basketball games you'll all be able to play. There are some props out there today that maybe 10% of you would have access to, guys who play at one particular book somewhere. We're hoping in the future that changes here in the state of Nevada. With Cantor Gaming having a bigger preference, with William Hill about to come online here, you're going to have operators that have enough volume to get into some of these prop areas. We can remember the old days back at the Aladdin in the early 90s. Terrific weekly baseball fantasy contest. Draft your players. There's a point system similar to what's in vogue now, and a lot of people showed up for it. You'd sit there and you look at pitching rotations, You'd look, oh, they're going to be in Wrigley Field this week. What's the advanced weather like there? All these little edges you could have. We'd like to do it. We'd like to see it become a bigger part of the betting board out here in Nevada. When we get to baseball this year, we will do a lot more of that because it's the one time we see the props more readily available. But on a daily basis, we just can't be sure that enough of you get access to where we're going to spend the time to talk about them yet. But it is coming.
And I have 2 quick points to make here, but I never make any quick points. I'll probably ramble on here for 5 minutes. Send the show over the total once again.
You already did.
When it comes to time. But first thing is that fantasy, the leagues have done a great job in trying to differentiate fantasy from gambling. Fantasy okay, gambling bad. Guess what? Fantasy is gambling. However the NFL wants to market it, or the NBA or Major League Baseball, fantasy, you're betting on the predicted outcome of games before they happen. That's what gambling is. Hello. So they marketed it well, but the bottom line, the 2 things are the same. And we are seeing more and more props. They will become more and more relevant. And as they become broader, as Dave mentioned, we'll do more here on the show. But if you're looking for one tip, and I can give you one tip, it's so simple, and yet most of the fantasy players that I know never use it. You're debating, do I start player A or player B for a given week? Real simple. Look at the total of the freaking game. If it's a basketball game with a total of 170 versus a total of 210, guess what? Start the guy with the higher total. In football, the total sitting at 38 versus a total sitting at 49, guess what? Start the guy with the higher total. Totals will give you a pretty good indicator of how much offense is expected in any given ball game. And, of course, fantasy points rely so heavily on offense. Just a very simple way to look. You can get those totals. You can get them from Covers and any number of other places, but certainly the Covers odds page, not a bad place to start. And that means we're wrapping up segment 1, which means it's time to ask you to please keep sending those emails coming. Keep sending those emails coming? SportsDay at Covers.com. Like I said, we're doing our best to answer as many emails as we can. We do have a backlog. That doesn't mean we're not going to get to yours. And again, great questions. Move to the front of the line. So SportsDay at Covers.com. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Vegas SportsDay. You can get involved in the Covers.com community. Covers.com/posting forum with active threads and discussions going right now. And of course, I would be remiss. I've got 3 more days to talk about it. And I'm going to talk about it all 3 days. That, of course, is the Super Bowl party. Guess what? We're sold out. There may be a line out the door. You better get there early. Bottom line, if you want to come, remember, it's free. We have giveaways, free booze. We got some snacks. Party at Covers.com. If you want to come to Caesars on Friday night, hang out with Dave and myself, please do so, but make sure to RSVP. Party at Covers.com.
You want some fantasy sports talk? Al Jefferson, Steve Nash, and a host of others coming up next in our Insider Six-Pack. You're watching Vegas Sports Day.
Are you looking for the latest odds, the fastest scores, the most important trends, and the best matchups and stats? Are you looking for the key late-breaking information that can make you a winner? Well, Covers.com has the answer. The world's largest sports betting community gives you a front row seat in the heart of the action, from the opening lines to the final scores. If you want to stay ahead of the game, Covers covers the numbers.
Oh, hello there. My name is Brandon HAHN, host of Awkward Silence 2.1. And when I'm not living vicariously through Chris Phillips, I'm on VegasVideoNetwork.com.
I'm not popping the top on a beer today. I'm going to screw off the top because we're drinking a 6-pack of NyQuil up here between the two of us.
6-pack of NyQuil?
Yeah.
That'd be
Good buzz. Yeah, no question about it.
That's a heck of a buzz.
It's time for today's Insider Six-Pack. Let's start with tonight's matchup between the Miami Heat and the Milwaukee Bucks. And a big part of our six-pack takes in the coming days and weeks will be these mini postmortems where we talk about key revenge settings throughout the course of the NBA season and bring up some of the issues that happened in the first meeting or the last meeting that the two particular teams played. Milwaukee's 91-82 stunner over the Miami Heat last week certainly brings plenty of food for thought. First, we need to note the personnel changes between the last meeting and this meeting. Andrew Bogut, 13 points, 8 boards in the first meeting. Well, he's out indefinitely right now. Not going to be that low post centerpiece for Milwaukee tonight. Meanwhile, Miami played without Dwayne Wade in that last meeting. Wade, of course, will be on the floor once again this evening. So 2 key personnel differences between the 2 meetings. But the real key of Milwaukee's win in that ballgame at Miami was that the Bucks defense completely flustered Miami. The Heat, 21 turnovers compared to only 9 assists. That's as bad a ratio as you're going to find from Miami all year long. And, LeBron James, Chris Bosh actually shot well in that ballgame. A combined 16 of 30 from the field, a combined 18 of 20 from the free throw line. But all the other Miami players combined, 31 points, 3 assists. Obviously, that didn't get it done. Now, note that the Bucks only shot 35% from the floor that night. They only shot 5 of 30 from three-point range, but they were 30 of 34 from the free throw line. To win a road game with 5 of 33-point shooting and 35% shooting overall shows really how disruptive that Milwaukee defense was, although that's going to be a much greater challenge for the Bucks D with Dwayne Wade on the court tonight.
Let's go to New Orleans, where Steve Nash will be back on the court for the Suns tonight. Yeah, we know Nash is diminished at this stage in his career. He's not quite as good as he once was, but look at the impact he has with the Suns. Not so much because of his ability, but his leadership. The 2 games they played without Nash this year, they lose to the spread by 31 points. It's easier to quit on the court when Nash isn't out there forcing you to keep playing harder. He'll be back tonight. But you know who you're not going to see? Chris Kaman, who arguably might have the best job in the NBA right now. He's getting paid. He doesn't have to play. He doesn't have to practice. He's in what we could call an NBA purgatory right now. He's on the trading block. A lot of offers out there. Apparently as many as 7 or 8 teams have come to the Hornets saying, we'd like to pick up Kaman. So because he's been injury prone in the past, they don't want him to get hurt. He's not even practicing now until a deal is going to be made. Kaman in NBA purgatory hurts New Orleans up front. They really could use that low post offensive presence. They just don't have anyone who can score down low. But no injury there. He's just not going to play again for this team.
Yeah, Chris Kaman, the pride of Central Michigan, of course, the pride of the German national team who used him in the Olympics when they couldn't find enough good players that were actually from Germany. Let's talk about the Houston Rockets. I'm no Kevin McHale fan. Haven't been at any point throughout his career as a coach or a GM. But the Rockets got off to a real nice start under McHale. 12-9 in their first 21 ball games. Something of a surprise considering where they were projected coming into the season. And, of course, they're heading into their matchup with San Antonio tonight. They have 2 wins over the Spurs already this season. But let's note some signs of frustration from some of the players on Houston. Maybe a little bit of frustration at the head coach, Kevin McHale, when you read these quotes that I'm talking about. These quotes showed after their poorly played defensive game against Minnesota on Monday night. They lost at home 120-108. They allowed the T-Wolves to shoot 58% from the floor in that ballgame. They had Minnesota had one of the best offensive efficiency outputs that you'll see from any road team all season long. But look at these quotes. I got one here from Kyle Lowry, one from Courtney Lee, and one from Patrick Patterson, the 3 key contributors for this Houston team. And they're the kind of post-game comments that we're not accustomed to seeing out of these guys in particular and of the Rockets in general so far this season. First from Lowry, quote, "We got to make adjustments in game. We just got to make adjustments. We got to do something different. A guy gets it going, we have to figure out something to stop him from going. Team, scheme. You're not going to stop anybody one-on-one in the NBA. You have to do something different." That's a little veiled criticism of his head coach. Here's from Courtney Lee, quote, "We have to make adjustments. When we had guys going, they made adjustments and kind of slowed us down. We got to do the same to them." Again, a little veiled criticism of McHale. This from Patterson. "That second half, that was no team out there. Everyone was trying to do their own thing on our own island. No one was helping each other out." So a little selfishness in play for Houston. So what's the first thing that team leader Luis Scola said when the team gathered up for practice yesterday? Shut the bleep up and play.
We have to say, you're on the internet. We could read that, can't we?
I don't like dropping F-bombs on there. I'm just not comfortable doing it,
So not like during the commercials.
Yeah, during the commercials, that's all I do is swear. But on air, eliminate. Shut the bleep up and play. You guys know what he said. Note that a big part of that early Rocket success is schedule-driven. The number 25 schedule in the NBA. They faced a fairly easy slate thus far. And that can lead to a team getting perhaps the wrong impression of itself, which leads to some of these frustrations.
So at Salt Lake City now, the Clippers taking on the Jazz. Yeah, if you look in your logbooks, you see the first meeting between these teams, a 108-79 Utah domination. Probably doesn't mean anything at all. As we note so much about this convoluted NBA season, a lot of times as teams fall behind early, they just give up and let the game go. So what Vinny Del Negro did that night. His team was a little tired going in. They'd played the night before. No Mo Williams or Chris Paul, two outstanding point guards. So they fall down by 14 in the first quarter, lets the game go. No one went 30 minutes for the Clippers that night. In fact, Blake Griffin went 27:09. That was his season low for minutes played. First game doesn't necessarily mean much. But now the shoe might be on the other foot. It's Utah that could be a little bit shorthanded tonight. We already know that Rajah Bell will not play. And yeah, you're not going to see big stats for him, but he's one of the better defensive guards in the NBA. And when you've got Chris Paul, you've got Chauncey Billups, you've got Mo Williams coming in for the opposition, you'd like to have Bell out there. But also Al Jefferson, good chance he may sit out one more time. Hasn't gone back to full practice yet. They're listing him as the old proverbial game time decision. But so many times we told you the coaches are going to err on the side of caution with key talents this year. Here's what Tyrone Corbin said, which almost leads you to believe that Jefferson won't play tonight. Think, we'll talk to the doctors and trainers and make sure we make the right decision there, and also how the guys feel. Scheduling and the importance of getting healthy may weigh more on that than taking a chance now of getting hurt further.
If you're looking for a sleeper that the betting marketplace is kind of missing right now, how about out-of-the-way Eastern Michigan University in Ypsilanti, which is showing some real signs of life under first-year head coach Rob Murphy, a former Syracuse assistant. They moved into first place in the Western Division with a 5-2 straight-up record. So why are the Eagles still 7.5-point dogs versus Miami O tonight, which is at 1-6 in last place in that same division of the MAC? Largely because the full season power ratings for Eastern Michigan do not reflect the impact of their 7-foot center, Deshaun Riley. Now, Riley's a native of Detroit. He was a number 85 recruit in the country when he signed with Syracuse, but a broken foot curtailed his development for the Orange, and he wanted to play closer to home, and boom, Murphy took the job at Eastern. It opened the door for Riley to come and play for the Eagles. Now, he wasn't eligible for the first 9 games of the season, but his defense is having a huge impact in MAC play. Again, 5 points a game, 4.5 rebounds, not going to wow you with his statistical numbers, but 17 blocked shots and a defense that's now allowing only 51.4 points per game in MAC play on 36% shooting. That has a lot to do with Riley's impact.
A lot going on when Baylor plays Texas A&M tonight. We're going to start with a little bit of an emotional factor that's going to impact several games over the next month. With new conference alignments coming up, got a lot of old rivalries taking place for the last time. We're going to particularly note one later in the week when Kansas goes to Missouri. 2 top 10 teams on Saturday, possibly for the last time on that court for a while. Billy Kennedy, the new coach at A&M, acknowledging this and wanting to set the stage for something a little bit better going forward. Since this could be the last time they play Baylor, one of their rivals for quite some time. Kennedy's take, I hope to play Baylor or Texas sometime soon, in Dallas or Houston, as a 1-game deal. Annually, that would be. I'd love to continue playing other Texas schools with the success and tradition those programs have and with the relationships we've had over the years. It's good for basketball, good for the state, and good for the programs. Let's get a little better crowd if it's going to be the last time for some of these rivalries. Question tonight, who takes the court for Texas A&M? Leading scorer Chris Middleton, he's going to sit out for the 3rd game in a row. Starting point guard Dash Harris, he didn't play with a foot injury against Oklahoma State on Saturday. Not sure he's going to be back tonight. They played well without him against Oklahoma State. They shot 58%. They had assists on 18 of 28 field goal attempts. They moved the ball real well. But now the conundrum. We'll talk about this 2 ways. First, from the A&M side, here's what Kennedy has to say. We don't know what the lineup will be like. We'll see who gives us the best chance, the best start against Baylor. So, yeah, you got a team that's weakened a little bit. They're patching things together. But now Baylor doesn't know who to prepare for. When they look at the films 2 games back, they see Harris in. He may not play. But Kennedy's already telling him, you know what? If you look at that Saturday film, that might not be what we're going to send out there against you.
Up next, it's time to go to the best of the basketball betting board. Money Time starts next, right here on Vegas Sports Day.
I'm Courtney Leone. This is Vegas Video Network. You want me to mention awkward silence? Let's do that then, okay. Never been on set here before. I'm always out live on location for Awkward Silence 2.1. I'm Courtney Leone, and you're watching the Vegas Video Network. Good? Better?
Livestream is your premier place to watch live events on the web, mobile devices, and connected TVs. See new events daily or broadcast your own at livestream.com. Livestream. Be there.
I got to keep my arms in the shot when I raise the roof for Money Time. This edition of Money Time is brought to you by Covers.com. Remember, for all the key information you need in every sport, Covers covers the numbers. Let's start tonight in Philadelphia, where right now the Chicago Bulls about a 2-point road favorite against the Sixers, and a lot of respect for Philadelphia in this line. Philly certainly 15-6 straight up over the first portion of the season, and they've played dominant basketball at home, repeatedly blowing teams out on this floor. But much of that has to do with strength of schedule issues. When the Sixers have been asked to step up in class against teams that would qualify for the playoffs if they started today, well, only 6 of their first 21 games came against those teams. Philadelphia, against in those step-up contests, just 2-4 straight up.
So not only do these standings not quite correlate because Philadelphia may not be as good as people believe they are with that schedule impact, look at the stats, and the defensive numbers are actually staggering right now. Philadelphia, number 1 in the NBA on points per 100 possessions. That's the stat we will quote all the time because we think that's the best measurement. It's how well you defend against shots. It's how well you go out and take the ball away with turnovers. 91.7 points per 100. Chicago's number 2 at 94.5. That is a monster game. Almost 3 full points. Philly's playing better than anybody else in the league. Now, here's the problem. Not only has it been a weak schedule that the 76ers have faced, but so many of the teams they faced also had key injuries when they played them. So now we're going to find out, okay, does Philadelphia really have something? Because what's happening, the further you move up in the standings, the more seriously a good team's going to take you. Chicago will not take the 76ers lightly. They're going to say, look at these numbers. We've got to get after these guys. And now Philadelphia can be vulnerable around the basket once again. We talked about Bojovic and Haas being out for the last week and a half for them. Bojovic did dress against Orlando. A chance he could have played if he had to that night, but they were ahead comfortably until that final minute. Little shenanigans that took place. We don't know about Haas yet. That could be the real hole for Philly in this kind of matchup. Chicago, number 1 in the NBA in rebounding. The Sixers, number 17. And that's counting times when their 2 big men were on the court. So we see Philly could be a little vulnerable. Chicago will be focused. But just how good are the Bulls right now? That's another question.
Sure, because Chicago certainly has some issues, both in this ballgame and in general. You know, first one comes with the matchup issue. I mean, one thing Doug Collins has, he's got good defenders for Derrick Rose. For example, you can bring Evan Turner off the bench and give his length the ability to make Rose have some difficulties. Excuse me. Chicago on the road without Luol Deng. Well, I mean, Deng has been instant offense for the Bulls. He's a big part of their offensive game plan. Rose scored 34 at Miami. No one else on the team had more than 11 in that ballgame. They're going to miss Deng. And, of course, the injury to Richard Hamilton forced Kyle Korver not only into the starting role against Washington, but into 44 minutes of playing time. Excuse me again. Bulls defense. 44 minutes from Korver. That's not Chicago, dude.
Let's go to Dallas, where things could be a little bit healthier. Well, we took the air. The Mavericks were a 2-point favorite over Oklahoma City. Janitor from outside slipped a note under the door. He's got to go to 1.5 now. He's getting a lot of Thunder money. We can certainly understand where that's coming from. Okay, Dallas has Dirk Nowitzki back. They've won a couple games in a row. All is fine, right? We're not sure yet. This line is saying, okay, you're the defending champions. Dirk's back. You're winning games again. We're going to make you the favorite. Is Dirk really back? You couldn't tell by watching those 2 games. Now, forget the final scores and the fact that they won. Look at his performances. 9 for 24, 0 for 6 from three-point range. He's now 8 for 40 beyond the arc for the full season. But as bad as his shooting's been, look at the secondary numbers. Only 4 assists in those 2 games. And perhaps the worst indictment of all, only 2 free throws in 2 games combined for Dirk. And that's counting that game against San Antonio where he logged big minutes because that one extended into overtime. What are opponents saying? Dirk, we don't think you can make that shot right now. So you can try to put the ball on the floor and drive by us, but we're sitting back and waiting for that. Make a shot. Go ahead. We dare you. So maybe Dallas isn't really back yet, and maybe Dirk isn't back yet. Remember that last win they got in Phoenix? There was no Steve Nash. That win they got over the Spurs on Sunday night, Danny Green's shot was late by just literally a millisecond. So nothing all that special from the Mavericks in these last 2 wins moving forward. We're going to watch closely tonight because we're not sure that Dirk is ready to go yet.
And Oklahoma City likely to bring a particular focus for tonight's matchup. I know these 2 teams have met already this season, but there's still playoff revenge angle that you have to pay attention to, and also the fact that OKC is coming off their single worst performance of the entire season, a loss that was basically non-competitive against the Clips on Monday night. Scott Brooks, after that game, was talking, and I don't have the quote right here, but basically the quote said, hey, we're allowed to have 1 bad game out of 20. It's going to happen. It's inevitable, but we need to make sure we don't have 2 bad games out of 21. So we would expect good focus from OKC, and the matchups here work in Oklahoma City's favor as well. The Mavericks, they're going to be forced into playing some zone tonight. I don't think that Sean Marion's going to be able to get out on the perimeter and contain Kevin Durant. And while there is a key under-the-radar injury for the Thunder in terms of Thabo Sefolosha, a guy who really brings it on the defensive end and allows Brooks to bring James Harden in off the bench for his offensive production with the second unit. Don't know yet if Sefolosha is going to be able to go. But the bottom line for OKC this evening, we're going to get good focus out of them. I'm not sure we get that same focus out of a Mavs team that may be a little bit fat and happy off of 3 straight wins, 6 wins in the last 7 ball games.
We may not be done with this game just yet, but before we go back to Dallas, time to check in on the Wednesday night college hardwoods. As Money Time continues, you're watching Vegas Sports Day.
Traditional media believes that after about 3 minutes, you'll tune out. Most Vegas media companies think if it doesn't jiggle, you won't tune in. At the Vegas Video Network, we think both are wrong. The Vegas Video Network is the first and only live online broadcast network that specializes in insider news and expert views about Vegas. We combine great storytelling with the ability to watch when and where you want on your computer, mobile device, or television. Discover the real Las Vegas. Visit VegasVideoNetwork.com.
If you live in the U.S., it's time to go to our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. We're going to talk about the Georgetown Hoyas, about a 2.5-point favorite tonight over UConn. And this is a UConn team, they've been struggling of late. Great run last year with Kemba Walker, no question. In the postseason, during the regular season, they were a mediocre team. If you remember, they had to kind of win out down the stretch just to make the tournament after going through a pretty nasty collapse throughout much of the month of February. Well, they've lost 3 straight outright as favorites. 5 of the last 7 games, outright losses as chalk. Not so easy for the UConn Huskies this time around, although they do have a pretty good track record against this Georgetown team. The Huskies defense giving the Hoyas a little problems in recent meetings.
Jim Calhoun, of course, is not going to take a losing streak lying down. You're going to see changes, and changes plenty for Connecticut tonight. Shift in the starting lineup. Ryan Boatwright will start at point guard. Shabazz Napier will come off the bench. Napier 0 for 7 in that last Connecticut loss. Boatwright, a quick, electric player, couldn't start at the beginning of the year because they were working out some eligibility issues, then got suspended a second time until they had to clear up a few matters. Played 30 minutes off the bench against Notre Dame on Sunday. He should be back in shape and back to full speed. Also going to be starting tonight, Roscoe Smith instead of Alex Oriaki. Oriaki's been a big disappointment this year. Here's Calhoun's take on this. He says, of course it was difficult to make those changes, but we think it's best for the team. It's not against anyone. It's a move for us. I expect Shabazz will play a lot of minutes. From Baz's standpoint, he'll get a better viewpoint coming off the bench. And in some ways, that's his best role. He's one of these instant offense guys. if he doesn't have to worry about running the offense and he can just think about taking his shot when he gets it, don't be surprised to see him break out a little better tonight. And a lot of three-guard looks with Napier running the show. Let Lamb and Napier be the scorers on the window or on the wings. Not just better offensive opportunities, but more opportunities, because the other thing you're going to see with Boatwright, Connecticut, picking up the pace a little bit. Another Calhoun quote talking about that issue. We have to push the pace. We can't win at the pace we've been playing. That's what happens when you have two shooting guards having to bring the ball up and instigate the offense. Boatwright is a starter tonight. You're going to see a quicker Connecticut team.
Yeah, I mean, both these teams have been struggling on offense of late. You know, UConn the last two games, 105 combined points on about 38% shooting against Tennessee and Notre Dame. Georgetown, 112 points on 36% shooting in their last two ball games. Instead of their seniors stepping up, and this is a Hoyas team loaded with veteran talent, they've kind of been going flat in recent games. Personnel issues as well for the Hoyas. Senior Hollis Thompson, he sat out most of the final stages at Pittsburgh after going a season-low 21 minutes against Rutgers. Here's a quote from head coach John Thompson, quote, "I thought that there were stretches where the lineup without him on the floor was more effective than the lineup with him on the floor." And Thompson, too, is talking about picking up the pace perhaps here a little bit. You know, he wants his team, here's the quote, "Just play hard, just bring effort, bring energy. Let's not get cerebral and start thinking, what am I doing, how am I doing? Just give the effort, and everything will hopefully fall into place." Now, this is a series that has seen, you know, look at the last 4 years, 141, 148, 141, 137, 147, 141, I say, in the last 5 meetings. Total sitting here now, 126.5. I don't know if this is the right time to zig with the markets expecting this game to be relatively low scoring. Might be a chance to take a look at a higher scoring affair if both teams live up to what they promised to do and push the pace.
Let's go to Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Showdown time in Conference USA. Memphis and Southern Miss both tied 6-1 atop the league. Right now, Southern Miss has been played up to a 3-point favorite, up from a 2 to open. And yeah, we got beat to the punch on this one. And we got to give credit where credit's due. Patrick McGee at the Hattiesburg American this morning. Great opening in his preview for this game. Memphis has been the white whale of Southern Miss basketball, with head coach Larry Eustace playing the role of Captain Ahab the last 8 years. It's a wonderful way of referencing it. What's he talking about? About the fact that Eustace is 0-17 against Memphis since becoming the Southern Miss coach. It's an 0-18 run overall for the programs. So you're going, wait a minute, why is Southern Miss favored if they've lost 18 times in a row? Because here's where that Ahab Moby Dick aspect comes into play. These games have been nut crunchers the last couple of years. First meeting at Memphis this year, Southern Miss loses by 2. They've got the ball, a chance to win the game. They miss a three-pointer at the buzzer. Look at a couple of the games last year on this court. They lose by 1. Conference USA tournament, they lose by 3. They've been right there time and time again. But it sets up a fascinating aspect tonight. They've got a lot of veterans. They really, really want to beat this team. But is this one of these settings where that legacy puts too much pressure? And maybe this idea that, oh, we're not meant to beat Memphis, instead of it being all positive energy.
Yeah, I mean, there's circle games, and there's double circle games, and there's triple super secret circle games. This is one of those for Southern Miss. This team is absolutely dying to beat Memphis. 17 straight losses, obviously, under Eustace. And the heartbreakers. You know, I mean, they were a missed three-pointer away in the first meeting, a missed three-pointer at the buzzer from pulling off the outright upset over the Tigers. Look at some of these quotes. Here's the senior point guard, Angelon Johnson, quote, "I haven't beaten them yet. I hate losing to them. I've got to accomplish something before I leave. It'll probably be my last time we play them because you don't know what's going to happen in the conference tournament." Here's from the senior forward, Maurice Bolden, quote, "Coach is reminding me every day that this is going to be my last chance. I've only got 2 more months in my college career. He told me it's going to be my last time to step on this floor against Memphis. It's life or death." Yeah, it's a big game for Southern Miss. No question about it. And again, this is Southern Miss team. 2 seniors and 3 juniors in the starting lineup. 2 key seniors coming off the bench. Memphis simply can't match that level of experience. 4 sophomores and a junior on the starting rotation, just a single senior on the roster. But all of that, as Dave talked about, may not matter if Memphis is a better team and Memphis doesn't have the weight of the world on their shoulders for tonight's matchup. On the other hand, if Southern Miss comes and plays to their capability, if they get the chance, they're going to wipe the floor with the Tigers tonight. No question about that.
So it's something you should all relate to in your own lives, and it'll help in terms of handicapping. When are you at your best? A lot of times when you're relaxed, when there's no pressure at all. If you play golf, think about the best days you have, when you're relaxed. Not everybody responds to pressure the right way. Individually, people can respond better to pressure than sometimes they do collectively. Yeah, Southern Miss has a lot of experience on the court tonight. And against Memphis, it's all losing experience. Memphis has a young team. Well, all these young players have ever done is win against Southern Miss. So we'd love to be able to play here. We like the grit of this Southern Miss team. You see a loose ball on the court, you're going to usually see 5 Southern Miss guys diving after it. There is that tenacity. But now there's that problem of these self-fulfilling prophecies. Tie game with 2 minutes left. If they're in a huddle, will they feel coming out of a timeout that we're going to beat Memphis? Or are they going to feel like they're Sisyphus pushing that boulder up the hill a little bit? That's why we have to be a little bit careful. So many times people say, oh, they have to win. They're going to bring it. They're going to bring it. That isn't always good. In life, in sports, in whatever you do, pressure doesn't always accentuate performances. Sometimes pressure can actually hurt a little bit. So, yeah, we'd like to play Southern Miss here, but we can't, especially now that the best of the price has gotten away. But there is something we can do on the Wednesday night board to build a little bit of a prop bankroll that you can have when we turn our props tomorrow.
Yeah, but first I got to give you credit, Dave. You just used the myth of Sisyphus and Captain Ahab and Moby Dick in the same analysis of Southern Miss Memphis. Well done. That's why they call him the professor. For Money Time tonight, however, we're going to go back to the NBA hardwoods, talk about a game that we brought up in our first Money Time segment, that, of course, being Oklahoma City at Dallas. And we're going to take a look at the Thunder from down under, OKC plus the 2 against the Mavs this evening. We have a bet-on situation with Oklahoma City coming ready and focused, and we have a bet-against situation. Both Dave and I cash tickets betting against Dallas in their matchup against San Antonio on Sunday. Plan to do it again tonight. Take the Thunder plus the 2. That's the Vegas SportsDay play of the day. And that's going to wrap it up for the Wednesday edition. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to spend with us. For Malinsky, I'm Sevransky. Enjoy the games and good luck. We'll be back again, full Super Bowl prop report tomorrow. Get your Kelly Clarkson hats on. We'll see you in 23 hours.